feel like
More
they're trapped,
empathy.
you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got much more empathy for them.
Yeah.
I understand that they're indoctrinated. I think I'm even much more empathetic in the way I speak to them. Um, you know, when I do get the opportunities to, because I can turn the other cheek now, believe it or not. I'm not a Christian, I'm an atheist, but I can turn the other cheek now a lot easier than when I was a Muslim. When I was a Muslim, it was completely, yeah.
Yeah. I think
I took it personally. You know, I
yeah.
thought they were bad people. Now I don't see them as bad people. I see Islam as the bad thing, you know. Um, because
Yeah.
I don't think that my family, I feel like, I feel that if I did not, if my family wasn't Muslim, if my community wasn't Muslim, I mean, I love Somali people. I just want to clarify and say, I love Somali people. I love being Somali. I think the Somali culture is really beautiful. The very tiny aspects that we have left, like for example, the music, um, the non-halal music is beautiful. The
There
music,
is wait, there
um,
is a halal
um,
music. There is
I
a
know, yeah,
halal
with the
music.
durban. Like I hate the durban stuff, you know, like the one drum, you know. But you know, when they have the whole, you know, orchestra and you know the guitars and the, you know, yeah, like
Wait.
the trumpets in Somali music.
Wait.
So
Let's
that I really
recap that.
love. What
Hang
else?
on. Let's recap that for our audience. How do you separate between the haram music and the halal music within that cultural music scene?
Oh, okay. Well, I wouldn't say. I should say that there's no really haram and halal music, but I'm just saying, you know, so in Islam, you're allowed to have. So the only type of music you can have is like a one tone drum, literally one tone drum, um, with a singer. And the singer, there's some specifications about what the person can sing and what octaves and stuff. I'm pretty sure. But anyways, so yeah, so like I'm not talking about from weddings and stuff. Like I like Brambur though. Like I like Brambur. I think it's a cool concept. But so yeah, like I like
Brambor
the
is
dancing
a
as
Somali dance for which is very common in weddings. I'm just explaining to
yeah,
them.
weddings.
Yeah.
Right. I like all these cultures, so our dancing cultures, our music culture. I also like Somali theatre culture. I think it's kind of um yeah, so these aspects of the culture I think I'd really, you know, love to see more work being put into and it built on. But yeah, so I just want to say for me personally, all the negativity I have towards, you know, Somali culture comes from the Islamic aspects of Somali culture, you know.
But there are some aspects. I mean, there's some other African aspects that Somalis just mishmashed Islam with African culture and just weaved it in like that. I wouldn't say like
Aside from
only
FGM,
Somalis. Huh?
aside from FGM, there's not much. I wouldn't say there's much. I mean, aside from FGM, that's the only thing that they can say. Um, but that to me
Well,
also,
FGM is
okay,
Islamic.
FGM,
FGM is
it's
Islamic.
Islamic. This is the thing. So
Yeah.
Islam allows it. You know, people. So there was Somali Muslims will say, "Oh, you know, you guys love WAC so much, so I guess you guys love FGM." But I'm just like, well, if Islam was, you know, the fair and correct way of life for all human beings for all time, then it would have erased the barbaric practice such as FGM. But
Not condone
clearly,
it. Yeah.
not condone it exactly. Same thing with
Yeah.
slavery. You know.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah,
slavery
and that's a
existed
known
before
fact.
Islam. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, FGM was pre-Islamic. Male circumcision was pre-Islamic. Slavery was pre-Islamic, but there are lots and lots of hadith that just simply continue with the pre-Islamic stuff and even give justification for it. And then what you have
Exactly.
in the 21st century is different madhabs using different ways to justify different things, you know? So
Hmm.
I don't normally agree with when people say that, fine, of course, there are Muslim communities that don't practice things like FGM, but
Hmm.
um,
It's
it
a
is
red herring. I
entrenched.
mean,
It is
yeah,
entrenched in of the four madhabs of Sunni. I mean, two of them. One of them says it is allowed, but it's not obligatory. Between Hanbali, uh, No.
And Hanafi. Hanafi, I don't think
Hanafi,
that. Yeah.
Hanafi,
The
but
Hanbali, I could see them doing
Shafi,
it. Yeah.
Shafi definitely
Shafi'i
says
definitely
it
does it.
is fard
That's what I
and
was gonna
it
say. In
is
Indonesia.
obligatory. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
obligatory. So, and that's
So
what
just to
Somalis
break
actually
down,
practice.
so what they will say is, Islam just made the Sunnah, so the Sunnah version. So the Sunnah, so there's different variations of FGM, right? So
Yeah,
that's so Fir'aun, which is the most dramatic one, which is the one where they cut off the labia and they sew it.
yeah,
And they basically leave two holes. It's caused the most damage. That one, like its name, is derived from the pharaohs. So, I mean, that is frowned upon in Islam, but it's still conducted. It's not like it was banned. Um, but the one they say, oh, it's sunnah. So that's cutting of the clitoris, cutting or
yes.
making a cut of the clitoris. So, I mean,
Actually, now they have big
things.
sunnah and small sunnah, especially within
Yeah, I know.
Islam. It's like
I was
big
gonna say,
sunnah
yeah,
and
they love
small
that.
sunnah. And when I really got deep into it, and so what's the difference? And you see these things have metamorphosized as
Yeah,
people evolve, and they have
it's
they just developed different names. That's it. It's the same
That's just
shit.
nonsensical. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
just like they have an aversion to clitorises. Like I don't understand. Like they really do.
yeah,
And I just want to add as well too. With FGM comes FGM culture, right? So this is
yeah,
something I think everybody knows in the world about FGM, but what people don't understand is FGM culture. And FGM culture is what I'm calling FGM culture is
yeah. Go on.
the culture in which like women and girls are shamed for having clitorises. So, actually FGM is something that a lot of girls are excited about. I know this sounds crazy to a lot of Western audiences now because they're like thinking, what the hell? But there's this whole culture of, coming of age and, womanhood. I know it happens to little girls, it's nonsensical, but I remember, for example, thankfully I wasn't cut, but when my first when my cousins had come from Somalia or whatever, I was about 12, right? So, and I remember being aggressively bullied by my aunties and my cousins and everything, and they would call you things like kinterley, kinterbad kapta, and like all this stuff. So all this stuff to say like you've got a clitoris. Like they actually think a woman that has a clitoris past a certain age is dirty, undesirable, just like something's wrong with that woman, Or she'll definitely be a whore. She'll be definitely loose sexually. So for them, it's a way to curb a woman's sexuality.
Yeah.
It's also, a way to clean the vagina and kind of make it more presentable. That's the way I was taught and told. This is why I'm saying FGM culture.
Yeah.
These are things that they try to,
Yeah,
they kind of sell
it's
girls.
about the shame. Yeah, it's about
The shame, yeah.
which can sound very mind-boggling to other people who are not fully aware, is that shaming of the fact that even the very lucky ones who have survived and not had anything, who didn't who weren't exposed to FGM, would then experience this multi-layered shaming of
And they ostracize you as well. Like
yeah,
I've even had friends tell me, friends that were back home in Somalia, for example, and that for whatever reason weren't cut or they got cut later. So I remember one of my friends was telling me that she's like, girls used to bully her in the playground, people wouldn't play with her until she got cut. So she had to beg her grandma to organize to cut her because her parents were progressive. And that was something that was common ironically, in pre-war Somalia. Pre-war, I just want to tell something to the audience. Pre-war Somalia, so that's literally 1992, Somalis were more progressive, more secular, less religious than they are now. Like we've actually regressed as a culture in 30 years. So there was a time where I think FGM
does
would have
this
been
have
slowing
something
down.
to do with the fact that for majority of Somalis, after moving maybe to different parts of the world, I think it's quite layered actually. Then they got exposed to a different version of Islam, so to
Definitely,
speak.
definitely.
Okay.
And in the camps as well too, in the refugee camps as well too. So what I heard was like, Salafis came from Egypt and Wahhabis came from Saudi Arabia. And so, Somalis were very vulnerable after the Civil War. So,
Yeah,
prior to the Civil
they
War,
came with
we were
all their
Sufis.
charities and
Exactly, their
madrasas.
charities and, madrasas and everything within updated
Yeah,
version of Islam. And I love the way Somalis talk about it. Well, they say in Somali, but I'll just say it in English, but they'll say things like, we weren't Muslim back then. I'm like, what? Like, they're like, yeah, we weren't proper Muslims back then. Now we're Muslim. I'm like, so hang on. In 2009, you've got the updated program. So your grandparents are going to hell, but you're on the right path. They're like, yeah, the old days, people didn't, they weren't really Muslim. I'm like, so how does that compute, like,
yeah, I hear that a lot
um,
as well. I hear that a
it's
lot
just nonsensical. Yeah.
from Somali Muslims who would say, oh yeah, but before the war we weren't even Muslim. That's why the war happened and that kind of stuff.
Oh yes, yeah, that's I know. Yeah. Oh no, they say. Oh no, I just want to say this for the crowd because I
Yeah,
just want my
yeah,
Western viewers to get a good laugh in. But they say. Oh, they're so weird, honestly. Oh yeah. So what they say is so our last president was secular, right? And I'm neither pro or against him. I should just say that. But
yeah.
so he apparently said, a year or two before, a couple of years before the Civil War, that he was really all about secularism and he was a real nationalist. So he was really progressive. So he said, men, from this day forward, he made a speech saying, from this day forward, every Somali boy, girl, man, and woman will be equal. So I've heard this from women that have told me that Somalia went down the day Siad Barre said out loud that a woman is equal to a man. These are Somali women that are telling me, they're like, how dare the president say that? They're like, the day he said that, that was the day God said, yep, this country's got to go. Simply for Siad Barre uttering that men and women are equal. They were like outraged. They're like, how dare he?